Okay guys, hey, how are you doing? Thank you for bearing with me with the live stream and it not cooperating today. I'm hoping I can troubleshoot it this weekend and figure out what the issue was. And next week we can go ahead and actually do a live stream so that way we can talk to each other. I'm sure a lot of us are missing personal interactions with people with everything going on right now and in self-quarantine and all that fun stuff. Anyways, those of you all that don't know me yet, my name is Adrienne Cummings. I'm the assistant trainer at Dog School of Louisville. I've been working with Lisa for probably about a year and a half, 2 years now, something close to that. I initially started taking classes with Lisa with my 4-year-old Doberman. He's 4 now. He was probably 4 months old or so when I first started taking classes with her. Previously, I still am involved in the horse world. I've been doing horse stuff for over 20 years now, a long time. I'd had my mules clicker trained. I had rats that were trained to do a whole lot of stuff. I had a bird that could play dead and do a whole lot of stuff. He was a free flyer. He was allowed, I didn't clip his wings, so we did a whole lot of like flight recall and all that fun stuff like that. So even though I'm fairly new to the dog world, luckily all animals learn the same. You just got to find the right reinforcers for them, okay? But all animals learn the same, use the different behavior quadrants and all that fun stuff, okay? So anyways, today we are going to be covering loose leash walking and reactivity. That was the big requested topic, the only requested topic as of right now. So next, whatever you all want the next video to be, go comment below. So that way we can, I can start planning out next week's video and hopefully it'll work live next week, okay? So anyways, loose leash walking. What is loose leash walking? I consider it different from a heel. I consider a heel a competitive behavior with the dog right here, right on your pants line, making eye contact most of the time, probably all the time. For really tight turns, they don't look at anything else. That's a competitive behavior, okay? I consider pet people do not need to know how to teach their dog to heel. If you're wanting to do competition, I'll talk to you. I can do a thing on that. But average pet person, you don't need to learn how to heel. You probably don't want to learn how to heel. I'm a dog nerd. I like teaching stuff like that. I realize the average pet person does not want to train their dog like that, okay? So that's why we're covering loose leash walking today. And what do I mean by loose leash walking? I mean a dog that is comfortable and fun to walk because they are not dragging you down the road or down the sidewalk, okay? They don't have to be right here because a dog can loose leash walk 10 feet in front of you as long as they're slacking the leash, okay? You have more control if they're reasonably close to you, like within this bubble area, but they can loose leash walk on a long line. So why is loose leash walking good and why do I emphasize it so much and consider it one of the more important things to train your dog? Is because dogs who know how to loose leash walk can go on more walks. They can go to more like festivities, big group gatherings and whatever else, all kinds of fun dog stuff that maybe they don't get to do quite as often if they are dragging you down the road. I don't want to walk a dog that's dragging me down the road. I realize most people don't want to walk a dog that's dragging down the road because you are walking for your dog. I'm assuming that's the main reason, but you also want to enjoy your walk. If you enjoy the walk, you're going to take your dog on more walks, okay? It's also important because loose leash walking fakes better body language if you were to do a dog on dog greeting on leash. Okay, if they are both pulling on the leash because it's a whole lot of leaning and like sitting upright and fighting and a whole lot of energy fighting against you and a whole lot of energy going forward towards the other dog, also usually in a straight line, those are all very much like red flags to other dogs that like your dog might come after them. Your dog probably won't. He's probably just overexcited, but that body language tells that other dog that he might come after him. That's awfully aggressive body language. I use quotes because it's not really aggressive. It's just over exuberant. But dogs can misinterpret that, okay? But dogs coming up on a loose leash, dogs don't tend not approach each other head on. They kind of go to the side, okay? Like this. If they're on a loose leash, they tend to kind of curve around to each other. And it's a whole lot more calm body language, okay? So you're less likely to have a fight if both dogs approach on loose leash. They also don't feel near as trapped, and because the tight leash kind of makes them feel like they're trapped and they can't escape, so they are more likely to kind of preemptively defend themselves, okay? Big thing with loose leash walking is the equipment, okay? We have equipment that makes it easier for you and easier on your dog, okay? So the big thing is, get my example out here, a flat leash. And by flat leash, I mean a non-retractable leash. It's just one of these boring leashes. It can be flat or round. Round ones are easier to hold on to, I will say that. And if they have a traffic loop, so a traffic loop is like shorter down and it has like an extra loop. It has an extra handle like this, but there's an extra one. That doesn't make sense, but there's an extra little loop of fabric like this closer down. That way you don't have to gather it up like this. It is really handy depending on how tall your dog is versus how tall you are. My Doberman with his traffic handle, it is the perfect height for me to hold on to and keep him close, okay? I'm also 5 foot tall and he's like almost hip high to me. So it won't work if you have a little dog and you're a tall person, because then you're gonna have to bend way down, okay? After the flat leash, why we don't like retractable leashes and why we really emphasize non-retractable leashes. Okay, those of you all that have retractable leashes, I want you to go ahead and hold your handle that you usually hold on to and hold the snap that you'd attach your dog to and pull on it. Okay, go ahead and pull on it. You'll notice there's some tension, that you are pulling against tension, okay? And then go ahead and try the same with a flat collar. Hold on to the handle and pull on that, okay? You'll notice, like, especially with this, there's only tension. I can kind of start feeling it here and then really feel it here, okay? With a retractable leash, they are always pulling against tension, okay? Why is that important? Because the dog ends up self-rewarding when they pull against that tension. If they're pulling against tension, it rewards them by letting them go 20 feet that way to go smell that carcass or who knows what gross stuff dog smell. It rewards them by they get to run across the road to go greet that other dog that they want to greet. They're while pulling against that tension the entire time, okay? Another reason we don't like them is it is very hard to wind your dog back up to you or reel them in if you need to with a retractable leash, okay? The only feasible way to do it is because usually they have really short cords that aren't easy on your hand. They can actually cut I've seen a lot of videos of, or pictures of people with like horrible injuries because they were holding the cord on their retractable leash and the dog ended up like darting, cuts open all their hand, like bad cuts. So there's no easy way to wind it up, because the easiest way, really the only way to wind it up is if your dog is already walking towards you and you go ahead and lock it as it eats up the tension or eats up whatever slack there is. Which if your dog's already walking towards you, you don't need to reel them in at that point because they're already coming your way. Whereas if your dog is pulling away from you and like charging something, you need to reel them in. But there's really no way to easily do that on a retractable leash, okay? Whereas regular leash, you just go ahead and fold it up, okay? Or you can let it out just as easy, okay? You can also do it one-handed. I'd practice one-handed, especially for like smaller, and then go ahead and grip it, okay? But I go ahead and practice one-handed if you all can do it. That way your other hand's free. Otherwise, I'll talk about leash handling in a little bit. Also, retractable leashes, they can break, like the locking mechanism can break, and then your dog's just loose. And it usually breaks when the dog's charging something anyways, so your dog is definitely loose at that point. Other equipment, a front hook harness. I'm a firm believer that 90% of dogs would do better walked in a front hook harness, okay? I go to festivals, not festivals, but like summertime gatherings with people with a lot of dogs, and I'm like, you need a front hook harness, you need a front hook harness, you need a front hook harness. I wish I could give them out to people. I am not rich though. Okay, and what I mean by a front hook harness, okay, so got Ozzy's little harness. This goes over his back, so his back's here. This is his belly piece, okay? This is where his butt comes out. This is where his head comes out. So his head comes out like that, okay? So front hook harness, it clips up front on their, like right in front of their sternum, okay? And the reason why this works versus a back hook harness is when they put tension in the leash or when you need to pull on the leash, it twists them around, okay? Because it'll pull on their opposite shoulder, because see how, like that, this will put tension on their opposite shoulder and kind of push them back around to you, okay? So that works because it gives you more leverage. I have my 90-pound Doberman. I'm like 110 pounds or so. I don't outweigh him by a whole lot. Whereas, and we've done a whole lot of work to where he doesn't pull, but should I need to hold on to him for dear life or control him for whatever reason, I can in a front hook harness, okay? Sorry guys, I just coughed in the microphone. Sorry microphone wearers, I tried to cough into my shoulder and realized there was a microphone, but you know, whatever. Sorry, anybody using a headphone. Anyways, the reason why this works, ladies, you all know best, or guys, if you wear a satchel or a knapsack, you can carry a whole lot more weight in a backpack with the 2 straps on your shoulders, and you can kind of lean into it and carry a whole lot more weight versus like a purse or a satchel. I coughed in the right direction that time. Versus a purse or a satchel on one shoulder, you can't carry near as much weight like that. It's hard. You have to like really like balance and everything. So anyways, you want to be that heavy, obnoxious. You want to be that heavy, obnoxious purse. Okay, you don't want to be a backpack that they can carry a bunch of weight with. Okay, and so the front hook harness, since it turns your shoulder, works the same way as like a heavy purse on your shoulder. Okay, back hook harness. I know some breeds it's recommended, like all the squish face breeds that have breathing problems, recommended back hook harness, which is fine if that's what works for you. Just know that they can pull a whole lot better in a back hook harness, okay, since they can lean into the chest piece. Okay, that's back hook harnesses are what sled dogs use to pull, and like the weight pulling dogs, because that's a sport too outside of sled pulling, is weight pulling. They use front back clip harnesses because they can really like lean into it, put all their weight into it to effectively pull. You don't want your dog to effectively pull you. You want to make it as hard as possible to pull you. With that, if the front hook harness does not give you as much control as you think you need, you can use a head halter. And by head halter, I mean it is a piece of nylon and it goes around their nose and then it clips back behind their head. A lot of people mistake it for a muzzle. It is not a muzzle. There should be plenty of room between the top and the bottom for a dog to have a full pant, pick up a ball, eat a stick, eat some food, whatever else. It works on the same principle as a front clip harness, in that it pulls them to the side, okay? It usually gives you more leverage because it pulls their head to the side, okay? Same if you all did horses, where their head goes, their body's probably gonna go. I know a lot of people don't do horses, but the horse people that are possibly listening, I know there's a Venn diagram of horse people and dog training people. But yeah, head halters are really nice. You do have to have your leash handling skills on point to safely use a head halter though, because since it does pull their head, you don't want your dog to lunge and then it like really wrench their neck around or their head around, okay? It can cause issues with their spine and their neck. And what I mean by that, pretend this is a head halter. So if your dog has this much slack and that much of a U, they can get a whole lot of momentum going between when they're next to you and when they're charging a squirrel or another dog. And what I want you to do with the head halter, really any leash, you should keep your tension or your slack just like this. They can't get a whole lot of momentum going if there's just that much slack versus even like this much, they can still get a whole lot. So always pay attention, take up some of the slack. Don't let it constantly be like this, okay? Especially with a head halter. Like I said, they can get a whole lot of momentum going with a whole lot of slack, and it can really cause some injuries in their neck and head and face, okay? So leash handling, I should have left my leash out. By leash handling, okay, I mean how you manipulate the leash and how you hold the leash, okay? I want you leash across the palm like this, okay? You can hold all of it in this hand, okay, or you can loop it. Loose loops, see how there's not lots of space? You can do it like this if you're wanting to do it one-handed. Like I said, you can also let it out with your fingers, take it up with your fingers if you're doing one-handed, okay? Or take up most of the slack like this, and then you use your other hand to kind of take up the rest of the slack and guide your dog, okay? So that way there's kind of like a happy medium. And then also your dog starts feeling tension when he starts getting tension on this end, so then he'll usually loosen up versus like, if like this, there's usually a whole lot more tension coming from one hand. He kind of gets like, it's kind of like a yellow light versus like a red light, okay? It's a yellow light to like, hey, slow down, maybe you should put some slack in the leash and check in with mom, versus like hitting all the leash is more of a red light, okay? Leash handling. Oh, I also don't want you to, don't wrap the leash around your hand like this, okay? It makes it really hard to give slack or take up slack if you need it without having to like raise your arm up way high or lower it, okay? It also tends to like, cause you're clenching and keeping it tight on your hand, people tend to raise it up high, okay? And take out the slack, okay? You want there to be slack in your leash, okay? If you're teaching loose leash walking, because if there is always tension like this, how does the dog know that they're in position if it's always tension even when they're in position like this, okay? You want enough slack to where when they are where you want them to be, there is slack and they're not feeling tension. That was probably redundant. You don't, when it gets tight, that's a sign that like, hey, I need to like back it up or come forward, check with mom, put slack back in the leash. But if you're constantly taking up the slack, that doesn't give them a cue or a signal that they need to like put the slack in it, okay? So focus, keep your hand at a comfortable height. A lot of people kind of want to pull it up like this, but that's usually just taking more slack out. Get your leash an appropriate length or use 2 hands so that way you can do that. And carry it about like hip height, usually with like a soft bend in your elbow is usually the most active. That way you're prepared to pull if you need to. Don't hold it up right here. You don't have a whole lot of maneuverability up here. And like I said, people tend to take up the leash when they do hold it like this and take out all the tension. Okay, so techniques that I really like. One is silky leash. And basically what that is you teach the dog to give to leash pressure in the house or in the yard, usually starting out in the house and then moving to your yard in more difficult situations, okay? And by silky leash, what we would do, I just need to keep my leash out, don't I? Next time I'll be better prepared. So, silky leash, you have your dog, there's some slack here. You just barely pull and then you give them a treat, okay? Then you pull, give them a treat. Pull, give them a treat. I don't want you to pull your dog towards you. I just want you to put some tension in the leash and give your dog a treat, okay? What this teaches them is tension on the leash means automatically turn back to mom or dad because they're gonna give you a treat, okay? This teaches them to give to the leash without having to deal with all the potential environmental distractions like squirrels or dogs or smelly spots or who knows what else, okay? And then eventually you'll start noticing that when there's tension, your dog's automatically gonna look to you for a treat, okay? Practice that in your house, in several different rooms in your house, and then go out to your yard, maybe your front yard, after your backyard, whichever's least exciting. Start with the least exciting one first, then go to the most exciting one. You also don't get to decide how exciting it is. Your dog is the one that decides how exciting or distracting an environment is. So that is really nice because it kind of teaches them the groundwork of giving you the leash without dealing with distractions. The next one that can be pretty effective is I'd call it the tree game. And it basically sums it up to the walk stops when you pull, okay? And what I mean by that is you're walking with a slack leash, your dog pulls towards a smelly spot. You stop and plant your feet. Do not let your dog pull you to that smelly spot, okay? Wait for slack in the leash. It might take a little bit because they're gonna be really excited. Wait for slack in the leash. They might even turn back and look at them. Look back at you. Once they're slack, you can walk towards a smelly spot together, provided he keeps the leash loose. If he just charges ahead, you stop again and wait. You can even make a U-turn and back up a couple steps too, if he really seems to be having issues. Once there's loose leash, take him to the smelly spot. You all go to the smelly spot together, okay? That can really work because it rewards the loose leash walking with what they want to do anyways, okay? And it's really nice if there is a goal in mind versus like you're trying to go on a walk. If you're trying to go on a walk, it takes a whole lot of stopping and starting. But if they're just pulling towards a tree or a smelly spot, regardless of whether you use a tree method on your regular walks or not, do not let them pull you towards stuff that they want to do. Wait for loose leash, okay? Because you don't want to reward them. Well, you don't want them to self-reward by dragging you across the road or to the tree or wherever else, okay? Don't let them self-reward by pulling you to places, okay? The next one, this is a big one. It's fairly new. I really like it. I didn't like it as much as, or I ended up liking it more than I thought I would. It ended up being way more effective than I thought it would. It's a fairly new technique. Denise Finzi came up with it. It's called the circle method. It's actually based off of what horse people do. So I'm beating myself over the head for not thinking of this first. But whatever, because I spent a whole lot of time doing circles when I took riding lessons. So anyways, what it basically comes down to is your dog pulls and you make a circle, okay? And there's more intricacies to it that we'll get into, but basically sums up, your dog pulls and you make a circle. Denise bases off of, she walks her dog in a whole lot of horse trails, and she noticed that what you do when you have a young horse who's really, 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 really wanting to go is you make a circle till they calm down, okay? Turns out it works with dogs too. So the reason why circles work, it's a calming behavior. Dogs, when they are too excited or overexcited or feeling aggressive or whatever else, they tend to go in straight lines and charge stuff, okay? When dogs are relaxed, you'll notice, like when they're smelling the yard, they kind of meander and kind of go all kinds of nice soft curves, okay? So the circle method works because it is a calming behavior. Dogs are bad actors. If you can get them physically doing something that is specific to like a specific emotion, they will usually almost always start feeling that emotion eventually. They might excitedly do it at first, but then eventually they'll be like, I guess I really am calm. A lot of it's self-soothing behavior, and that just the fact of them doing it is calming in itself, okay? It also works because it causes a reset. If they are charging towards something or fearful of something or just trying to like eat the squirrel or pull you along, a circle breaks them out of that straight line and it makes them think. It takes their eyes off the target. So that way they have a couple seconds to kind of take a breather, especially if they're fearful or trying to go after something. It gives them a little bit of a breather, okay? It also works because it puts you, the owner or walker, back on the radar, okay? If they are walking towards you versus pulling away from you, it kind of reminds them that like, oh yeah, I am on this walk with mom. It's also changing directions enough to where your dog will start thinking, I need to pay attention to mom or dad, because who knows what they're gonna do. They might make a circle again. So it kind of encourages checkbacks with you, okay? Focus and attention and auto check-ins are a big part of, they make your loose leash walking much easier. Another reason why it works so well is because you can still go on your walk. Okay, like I said, with the tree method, you might have to stop every step or every other step and wait. During that whole time, you're not walking. You're not getting your exercise. Your dog is not getting your exercise, okay? Whereas with the circle method, you both, it works because he's on the outside circle, so you're not having to outwalk your dog, but he is still getting exercise the entire time he's circling. Even if he's really pulling and he's really having to do a lot of circles for one thing, he's getting a ton of exercise. He's getting more exercises than if you were to just walk a straight line on your usual walk. So your walk can continue and you're still going somewhere, because you can even go like this if your dog is comfortable. It just needs a little bit of extra work. You can continue on your walk. It doesn't feel like you're training your dog. You're just going on your walk. Stopping and starting feels like you're training your dog. And I know you just want to go on your walk. You just want to enjoy your dog and have fun. Most pet owners don't really want to train their dog. They might want to do tricks or something, but I acknowledge I'm a dog nerd. I like training my dog. I train my dog pretty often. I realize, even me on my walks, I just want to go on a walk and not focus on trying to train my dog. Making a circle does not feel like training. It is a whole lot less repetitive and feeling like you're taking 2 steps forward and 2 steps back than stopping and starting. So that's why it seems to be very effective. A lot of people have had really good luck with it with a whole lot of different dogs. And people are having success with it and improvement pretty quickly. Like I know with Ozzy, it was within like 2 or 3 walks that we were seeing pretty consistent results, okay? Some dogs, it might take a week or 2, which is a whole lot less time than if you only use some of the other techniques, okay? So, some of the more intricacies on it, you circle when the dog pulls, okay? And then ideally, when they're coming back around, so if you're walking this way, your dog pulls here, and then you're like, oh, we're gonna make a circle. Ideally, there's gonna be slack here, and they're probably pulling you to something here. Ideally, there's gonna be slack here, so you walk them somewhere where they wanna spill up here with the slack still in the leash, okay? If they were to go ahead and charge ahead, make another circle. If they're really having issues, don't circle towards the object, just circle and spot like this. Just circle, they're gonna calm down eventually. They're gonna get tired. A tired dog is a good dog. Like I said, it also gives them a chance to relax and take a breather, okay? So circle when the dog pulls. Ideally end the circle. I don't want you to end your walk, but walk straight ahead once there is slack in the leash. Ideally to some smelly spot that your dog wants to smell, like a tree or who knows what else your dog might find on a walk that he might want to smell, okay? The circles need to be pretty big, okay? I don't want you, the walker, pivoting in place. You kind of need to walk with your dog, okay? So kind of like dog makes a big circle, you make a small circle inside without pivoting. So walk along with your dog. I don't want you passing the leash here. I don't want you pivoting. Walk along with your dog in the circle. You're making a smaller circle, so you're still not walking near as far as your dog is. But it also keeps you in line with your dog when you follow the circle with them, okay? It makes it more of a thing that you all are doing together versus your dog just circling you, okay? So make your circles big. Another big thing is, this applies for flat collars and harness front hook, and well, front hook you almost can't pull behind you anyways, just because how it works. But back hook harnesses, collars and head collars, pull to the side, okay? So pretend his doggy head is up here, okay? Pull to the side like this. So it might need, you kind of need to get off and cannot get at an angle, so pull to the side. Don't pull back when you do a circle, okay? Because if you pull to the side, pulling back, like I said, it can make that oppositional reflex where they kind of lean into it. Pulling to the side just kind of goes ahead and turns them, and they don't have as much of an oppositional reflex being pulled to the side versus being pulled backwards, okay? So pull to the side, works same thing if you had a collar. I don't know what happened to my upstairs neighbors. Sorry guys, a lot of noise. Collar, don't pull when the snap on your collar is right behind the dog. Pull when it's to the side of their neck, okay? So like here. It makes your circle much easier, okay? And it goes ahead and gets them going in that direction versus pulling backwards just kind of makes them stop, okay? For all these, you don't have to use food for the circle method. I do use it with my dog just to kind of initially get the circle started while he was still learning the method and the general kind of thing, especially because I walk on a sidewalk here, and it seems that dogs and most animals kind of have a weird tendency where even visual barriers, like a straight sidewalk, they will usually kind of just stick to the sidewalk anyways, versus like going like that all across into the grass here and grass here. They might do it a little bit, but a lot of times if they're not trying to go directly towards something, they're just gonna follow the trail, okay? So, and I noticed that with the circle method, dogs kind of don't want to get off like their already set path, and they're like, why? They'll like go to the edge of the sidewalk, but then they're like, wait a minute, I assume they kind of think the walk is ending, or maybe you're going home, something like that. But in that case, I do use a little bit of food to go ahead and get them motivated and be like, come on, you can talk to your dog. I talk to my dog all the time. You'd be like, come on, bud, come on. You can kiss to him or cluck to him. Like most dogs usually respond to that. That's a horse thing of mine. I kiss and cluck to my dog all the time. But it usually gets them pepped up and motivated and coming with you. I do reward when I do find a slack leash when we're coming around the circle, just to mark that. You don't, like I say, you don't have to use a food reward. Going in a straight line and resuming their walk is kind of a reward in itself. I just use a lot of food in general with my training. What else? It works better in like wide open spaces for now, or like large trails, just because like with a sidewalk, like I said, they can kind of get a little sticky on the sidewalk. But once you practice it several times, it works better. And they figure out like, oh, wait a minute, we just follow mom or dad. So yeah, sums up circle method. Circle when your dog is pulling. That's all it breaks down to. Slack, continue your walk when you have a slack leash. Okay, it's really easy. Let me know if you all try it and how you like it. Like I said, it works really fast. A lot of people are having a whole lot of success with it. Okay. Okay. So, anyways, next subject is reactivity, and this kind of goes hand in hand with loose leash walking because a dog that is on a loose leash is probably not acting reactive, okay? So what is reactivity? Reactivity is a dog with a whole lot of emotions. Sometimes they're good emotions, sometimes they're bad emotions. And by good, it's all kind of relative anyways, but by good emotions, I mean the more positive emotions that people are usually more accepting of. Like the dog is really, 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 really excited to see that dog that's on the other side of the road. Okay, they'll probably vocalize, they'll jump up and down, act more excited. That's usually a little bit more acceptable versus like the bad emotions, which most people refer to as reactivity, which is the dog barking, lunging, growling, jumping, really pulling on the leash. It's more what most people refer to as aggressive behavior. But I consider kind of them both reactivity to an extent because they're both just really big emotions. Luckily, most of them are treated pretty similarly and you can troubleshoot for both of them. So the big difference between them is some, like the happy emotions, are usually space closing behaviors. Okay, what I mean by space closing is stuff here, whatever dog wants to be here, and then dog is here on a leash. He's wanting to get really up close to that in a happy way, okay? He's wanting to really get up in that business. That would be space closing, okay? They are trying to close that space and make that space smaller, make it to where there's no space, okay? There is the space making behaviors, which would be what most people like the aggressive behaviors. The barking, growling, lunging, whatever else. That dog is asking for more space. It wants to either, like, scariest thing here, dog here, he's carrying on. He is usually, in almost all like aggressive reactive cases, the dog is trying to scare whatever off, okay? The dog is just scared and insecure and unsure, okay? It's really not true aggression. True aggression is luckily very, very rare. It's usually just misdirected fear behavior, okay? Luckily, that is usually easier to treat than actual aggression, and that's what most dogs have. To clarify, most dogs just have fear-based reactivity and aggression versus true aggression. So that makes it easy. It's good for owners, good for trainers. So that does make it easily misinterpreted though, okay? Is scary. And the big barking, lunging, growling dog is scary. People get embarrassed. They think their dog's going to attack somebody. It might. If a dog is pushed too far to the limit, they will attack in a fear bite or something like that. But ideally, dogs do not want to fight. They are just trying to scare off whatever so they don't have to fight. Okay? So what that is because of that, it gets misinterpreted a whole lot. People want to leash pop, people want to yell at a dog reacting, people want to do whatever else and punish it, okay? The bad thing with that is it can make the issue worse. It doesn't make all dogs' issues like that work. Luckily, dogs are very resilient and put up with a whole lot of our training behaviors, whether they're good or bad. But it can make it worse because dogs are animals. Their logic is not awesome. Sometimes we give them more credit than we really should because it's detrimental. So let me sum this up better. If a dog is trying to make space, if a dog is trying to make space, okay, and because he is scared and he's barking and lunging, and then either you have like a pinch collar on him or yell at him or leash pop him, he thinks they can think, not always, I don't never want to speak in absolutes. They can think that dog or whatever other scary thing hurt them. That is why they're hurting. They're not thinking that, it's because I kind of acted like a jerk. That's why it hurt. It's like, no, I saw that dog and that dog made me hurt. So it can make the behavior worse because then they're like, I need to really, really, really scare that dog away this time. I need to go all out, go ballistic, so that way I don't get hurt. And then they end up like running against a prong collar, getting corrected, and it just kind of a vicious cycle, okay? So that's why with our reactivity issues, we want to make whatever it is usually they're reactive to, we want to make it a good thing and train an alternative behavior, okay? So a big thing with reactivity, you need to watch your dog's body language, okay? And that goes with, you want to stay under their threshold, okay? So it's kind of like the deep end at the pool. It's nice and shallow here, and then it gets really, 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 really deep, okay? In the deep end, that is when your dog has shown a big reaction, okay? Jumping, whining, vocalizing, whatever else. They got thrown off the deep end. They didn't have their floaties. They don't remember their swim lessons. They react, okay? A reacting dog it's negative to themselves because they are so scared that they decided they needed to defend themselves or preemptively scare another dog off. You want to stay in the shallow to medium zone right now, okay? So if you think of it like green, yellow, orange, red, okay? You want to stay, green zone would be like your dog is smelling, he's happy, he's kind of like meandering along, nice, calm tail wags, peeing on stuff, whatever. Yellow zone would be like they kind of barely start looking at something. They maybe hold still, okay? Stillness is a red flag with dogs, or at least an orange flag, yellow-orange flag. Stillness means something has caught their attention, okay? You'll also notice like their body language will get more stiff, more upright. They will usually close their mouths. On a walk, your dog probably has like a nice, loose, wide open mouth. When something catching their attention to where they're kind of worried about it, they'll close their mouth. Okay, that's a big sign of they are staring, not looking. Looking is just looking, just hanging out. Staring is, like I said, they'll close their mouth, really upright. Their tail will probably stop wagging. They might lift a paw. A lot of dogs lift a paw when they're unsure. That is the time to intervene and either get some space with your dog, give a treat if we're playing the look at that game, do a circle if you're doing a circle method. You need to get your dog out of that state, okay? Because that means a reaction is brewing. It means they're getting too close to the deep end. They're doing like a little kid, you know, where you kind of go along the side of the pool. They're getting too close to the deep end, okay? You don't want your dog to go off the deep end, okay? So pay attention to that body language. You'll notice they'll start getting sticky, and like I said, you'll notice a stillness before something happens usually, okay? Get them before that happens. Equipment, like same as everything else, you just need to be more aware of how much slack your dog actually has when they're reactive. It's kind of the same with the head halter. You want nice, loose tension, okay? You want to be able to gather your dog up if needed quickly. That way you can control them. You don't want all that slack, okay? Like I said, you want just a little bit. That way he can't do too much, okay? If your dog's going to react, if your dog has very big reactions, they can really hurt themselves hitting the end of that leash hard, okay? So be aware as the walker, be aware of your leash handling and your leash tension, okay? Again, keep it loose. I don't want tension in the leash if you don't need it. If you don't need it, redirect your dog. But nice, like, loose tension. It's kind of an oxymoron, but that's what I'm going with, okay? So, treating it. Keep your distance from the usual triggers, okay? Distance lets your dog cope better, okay? Keep your distance to where they're just barely starting to look at something, okay? That way they can learn and observe without feeling like they're up close and personal and they need to defend themselves, okay? This also applies for the hyper greeters and the space closing dogs. So keep your distance, stay under threshold. Stay in the green, venture into the yellow, barely into the orange, okay? Sorry, I coughed. I apologize, guys. I'm used to coughing into that arm, and I realized I had my microphone there. Next time, microphone will go over here. So, focus on your dog's body language, like I said. Okay, so the first game you'd play with both forms of reactivity is the look at that game. This was created by Leslie McDevitt. She did a whole lot of reactive dog stuff, Controlled and Leash, if you all have read that book. All kinds of fun like that, working with more difficult dogs for dog sports and stuff that don't have like an innate drive to work and all that other fun stuff. Or overly distracted, it works for that too. So anyways, look at that game. It sounds very counterintuitive, okay? But I'll explain why it works. The look at that game is the second your dog looks at something, you mark it. Marking it by marker, I mean either a yes or a click or a good or a nice, whatever you want to use as your marker. You can do a tongue click like that. I like using a marker word for this, so that way, that is the cue to look back at you and get a treat, okay? You don't have to use a marker if you want to. I do find it's way more effective with this game if you have a marker though, okay? So anyways, what you would do is, and the marker, it means that exactly what you were doing when you heard that noise is why you are getting the treat. A lot of stuff can happen between when the dog does the behavior that you want and you fumbling a treat out of their mouth, okay? So it makes you more precise and be like, yes, that is exactly why you're getting a treat, not what happened like between the 5 seconds of you getting the treat and putting it in their mouth, okay? So the look at that game, anything that is your dog's usual triggers, usually other dogs, is what sets off a lot of dogs. It can be other scary things. My Doberman's scared of Gallapalooza horses and other animal statues. So that's what we use it with. So look at that game. The second your dog looks at something, you mark it and pop a treat in their mouth, okay? And you might need to get some, like I said, distance is key with this. You want to stay under their threshold to where they have the ability to eat the food, okay? If they are not eating the food, it either means they're over threshold. It's like you don't want to eat when you're scared. So either they're over threshold and they're not going to eat, or you need to up the value of your treats. Try upping the value of your treats first, or try both actually. You need to bring high value treats when you're working on stuff like this, okay? By high value, I mean super special stuff that your dog loves. We don't want kibble right now. We don't want a dry milk bone. We want something usually like cheeses, bits of hot dog, bits of lunch meat, chicken. A lot of people do like a chicken patty from Chick-fil-A, just plain, cut that up into little bitty pieces. You got some pretty high value treats. So bring out the big guns for this, okay? You want your treats you want to stay ahead of yourself, okay? The high value treats will help you so much and help make it a good thing for your dog, okay? So look at that game. Sorry, I apologize. That was kind of roundabout. Okay, look at that game. Dog looks at potential trigger. You mark or click. I'll just say mark for now on. When I say mark, you use whatever marker you use, marker word, clicker, tongue click, whatever you want to use. They look at the trigger, you mark it, and you pop a treat in their mouth immediately, okay? They look at it again, you mark, they put a treat in their mouth. You put a treat in their mouth. They look at it again, you mark, put a treat in their mouth, okay? And at that point, once you've done several repetitions, go get some distance from it. Let the dog have a break, okay? Let the dog go smell stuff, make some distance, let them calm down, okay? So then you can kind of start getting closer, and ideally still in your dog's reasonable, like yellow comfort zone. Don't throw them off the deep end. Again, they look at it, you mark, and you pop a treat in their mouth, okay? So this works for several reasons. It makes the triggers a good thing without throwing them off the deep end, okay? They start realizing, I see that dog, I see that scary person, I see, in my case, a statue, I get a treat. It makes it a good thing. The scary things predict treats. That makes it good. It makes you, it puts you for treating a conditioned emotional response, which just means the very presence of that makes them happy because they know good things are going to happen to them, okay? Cough on the other side. It also works because it starts training an incompatible behavior. By incompatible behavior, I mean a behavior that they cannot do if they are doing another behavior, okay? So in this case, a dog can't be lunging and acting like a crazy man and trying to go after somebody if they are looking at you, okay? The look at that game trains the dog to, I see trigger, I look to mom or dad for a treat. And you'll notice dogs will automatically start like looking, oh, okay, hey mom, do you see me? I looked at it. Okay, it makes it makes the trigger a cue to look at you, and it lets you provide potential guidance if you need it at that point, because they're already looking at you anyways. Okay, so they see the trigger, you mark and pop a treat in their mouth. Okay, eventually you can even name it. You can say, look at that, and they're like, oh wait, there is something to look at. Okay, this also works because it gives them a chance to observe silently, without having to interact with whatever potential trigger it is. Okay, they can watch and kind of look at it, evaluate the situation, versus like if you're constantly be like, no, don't look at it, don't look at it, don't look at it. That makes them be like, there's a potential scary thing, I should probably look at it. Oh gosh, oh gosh, oh gosh. It encourages them to look at it and evaluate the situation. Okay, which is fine. That's how everybody learns and how everybody evaluates potentially scary things. Okay. So look at that game. I can provide it. I doubt you all need another explanation since I've done it 3 times. Just stay below the threshold, okay? Don't every rep, don't keep going up closer and closer. Do several reps here, okay? Or green. This is the green area, so I'll keep it consistent. Don't keep going closer to your trigger, okay? Just do here, a couple here, a couple here, and then go take a break for a little bit, okay? Not even mess with it for a day. For those of you that your dog, that you will see your trigger on walks or whatever, cross the street if you can, or turn. That way you don't have to get, like, if your dog's scared of dogs, you don't want them passing, okay? You don't want them passing like this. You want distance. Like I said, you don't want your dog to react, so try to avoid as much situations as possible that would put them in, that would make them feel like they need to react, okay? Keep it nice and easy to where they're just looking at it and kind of vaguely starting to be like, maybe. That's the most you want, okay? Another one that kind of links into this one is BAT. What is that? Behavior, and I knew what it was like 5 minutes ago. But it's BAT. There's a 2.0 version now, but there's a book on it. I can post it in the comments if you all are interested. This one, it's more of you have to set up a training situation for it. So it can be handy if you had the trigger handy, and a trigger that cooperates is the key there. And basically you have a big open area and the trigger is at one end and your dog is at the other, okay? And you don't make the dog go up to the trigger, okay? You kind of let the dog meander here, he can go smell, and most importantly, observe the trigger at a safe distance, okay? The big important thing there is your trigger does not close space. Your trigger should just hang out there. If it's a person, they need to just sit out and read a book. If it's a dog, you need a dog savvy dog who isn't going to freak out if your dog has a reaction or isn't going to want to pull to your dog. You want a person, like a dog that's just going to sit there with their handler. Or little kids, a lot of dogs are scared of little kids. You need an adult there, to keep the kids occupied, and you need the kid just to sit there. You can lower the intensity of the threshold by having them sit and hold still versus running or standing up. But yeah, trigger is down on this end of the field. Dog is on this end and is just allowed to do whatever he wants, okay? If he does react, that means you as a walker need to take initiative and back him up to give him space. Because sometimes we do the same thing and we'll get closer to stuff we're scared of to investigate, and then all of a sudden we realize how close we are and we kind of panic. You don't want your dog to get like that. Usually they're just going to smell and pee or whatever else, pee on stuff, whatever else they want to do, and then they'll slowly kind of meander here, okay? That works too. It has to go over several sessions. A lot of times you will not get right up to your trigger, but just existing in this general area with a clicker close by and nothing scary happens is very good for most dogs. Behaviors like sniffing and smelling and peeing on stuff and just being a general dog, those are very kind of self-reinforcing, and they also calm a dog. If a dog is smelling, they are not worried about stuff. Dogs don't smell when they're scared, for the most part. Sometimes they'll fake a smell if they're a little bit stressed, but if they're meandering smelling, usually they're pretty comfortable or they're trying to calm themselves, okay? So the next one ties back into my loose leash walking. The circle method, it works for reactive dogs also, okay? So works with the same thing, the threshold, watch your dog's body language. The second they start getting sticky, you make a circle, okay? If a dog is trying to make space, and sometimes you'll have to just kind of wing it and see what you think your dog is. Don't get closer to the trigger. Just keep circling. Just keep circling, and maybe even back up if you're having issues and your dog is still acting like I hate to say a crazy dog, but that's usually the easiest way to sum it up. They're acting overly hyper and overly exuberant. So maybe circle away from whatever trigger it is. Let them calm down. This works again on the same principle as the BAT training, behavior adjustment training. That's what it is. It works in the same principle as what I just said. It gives a dog some time and some space just to exist and chill in the general vicinity of the potential trigger, okay? Oh, I've been talking for a long time. Sorry guys, I needed some water. This ended up being a longer video than I expected, so, but hopefully you all have learned, will learn a lot since I'm not quite done. So the circle method works, like I said, because it allows the dog to exist in the general vicinity of whatever trigger it is without anything scary happening, okay? As your dog gets more comfortable with like circling around it, you might be able to get closer. Again, stay below your dog's threshold before they react, okay? And if you need to, make space. Space is your best friend. Making space is always going to be your best friend with reactivity issues, okay? For space closing dogs that are over exuberant and hyper greeters and all that fun stuff, stay where you are circling, especially stuff like chasing squirrels, chasing cats, whatever. Don't get closer to the trigger for a while. Just circle where you are, kind of remind them, go a different direction if you can. If you have to pass it, like if it's on your walk, see if you can make some space, like go an alternative route, but otherwise try not to go towards the trigger while you're still practicing it, because if your dog's reactive here or tries to chase a squirrel here, he's definitely going to want to chase a squirrel right here. Okay, you don't want to set him up for failure. That's the whole basis of positive reinforcement training, is trying not to set your dog up for failure. Set it to where there's no way he can fail, ideally. Sometimes it happens still. But lots of circles, okay? So anyways, that about sums it up. Trying to think of what else we need to cover. I think that about does it. Anyways, like I said, circle method, it's really new. It's awesome though. Just circle when your leash is tight. Make your circle big. Don't pivot, circle with your dog, okay? Let me know how it goes. Post questions or comments or anything you need clarification on down below. And I will get you, I'll respond once those show up, and hopefully next week we'll be able to do an actual live stream, okay? So it was fun, guys. I hope you learned a lot, so bye.